Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's Monday. It is Mindset Reset Monday. Good morning. Good morning. It is Mindset Reset Monday. We are back. We are back. Hello, everyone. It is Mindset Reset Monday. It is Mindset Reset Monday. Let's take a deep breath. This is your time, right? No pressure, just our presence, our feet on the floor, right? We're feeling our legs, our thighs, our butts on the chair, our bodies in the bed, if that's where we're at, our bodies present at the desk, right? Our backs, our stomachs, and we're just getting present in our body. We've already done what we're supposed to do this morning, and now we're coming together as a community and just getting present in our body, right? We're feeling down our arms, right? Up our necks, our face, right? And just getting full on this Mindset Reset Monday, you guys. Welcome back. Welcome back to Life Lessons with Dr. Sheila Little. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Sheila Little, right? This is a part of Project Life where we turn theory into practice. And this month, we're talking about how to shape your life. And we started off talking about self-awareness. Last week, we talked about healing. And this week, you guys, we're talking about accountability, which is a great conversation to have, especially as we are trying to shape our life, because accountability is a big part of it. And I really do hope that this week would be one of the most transformational weeks of your life. So before we even get started, if you think that this will be a great conversation for somebody, look, go up and invite somebody to join this week's conversation, because I do think that it's going to be a transformational experience for you guys to really look at this thing called accountability a little different. Listen, why don't we have accountability? What is accountability? Why do we need it as we grow and things like that? Okay. Accountability, you guys, accountability. All right. But before we start talking about accountability in the topic, no more excuses, right? The power of radical accountability. Drop a word in the chat of how you feel today. How are you feeling on this morning, you guys? I'm feeling refreshed. It's a new week. Wednesday is going to be the first day of spring. We had a good weekend, right? We had some nice weather over this weekend. Had a nice, good thunderstorm. I don't know if you guys really like thunder, but I like to be asleep. I heard the thunder, right? So we're moving out of like this winter season and moving into spring. And this is a great time, right? This is a great time to really start shaping our life, to really move with the seasons. I do a lot of research. And so, like there's a theory that the first of the year is really like spring, right? Because if you really think about it, December really means Deca, right? The number 10, which would make January, right? The number 11, right? February, the number 12. So then March would really be like the number 1, right? So we're just moving into like the first part of the year, which would mean it would align with spring really blossoming again and things of that. That's a whole nother conversation. Hey, let's get into our conversation today. All right. Don't forget to drop a word in the chat. Good morning, everybody. It's Monday. It is Monday, and we're talking about how to grow through accountability, you guys. Listen, this conversation is for you. If you really struggle to stay consistent and follow through on your commitments, if you often blame circumstances or other people for your lack of progress, if you avoid accountability because it feels like pressure or judgment, if you want to develop stronger self-discipline and responsibilities but don't know where to start, okay, that's how you know that this conversation is for you. All right, I'm gonna give some real live examples of why accountability is hard, um, how we ourselves don't take accountability, how we experience people um, uh, not taking accountability in our life. So I think this is going to be an interesting conversation. I'm going to ask for a little bit of a engagement, because it's just important that you guys, that this becomes a feedback loop, because I definitely want to be here to support you. Listen, why do we resist accountability, right? One, the ego, identity, and really emotional projections, right? Many people just avoid accountability because they don't want to feel wrong. That's the biggest thing. Many people just avoid accountability because they don't want to feel wrong. But why? Right? Why? Is it the ego? Is it fear? Or is it really something deeper? Listen, the truth is that resistance to accountability is often a combination of our egos, our identity, and emotional projection, you guys. Right? Here's what is really happening. Here's what's really happening. Okay. The ego's need to feel right, right? This need for self-preservation. So let's talk about accountability. It's just really taking responsibility for your action. That's really what accountability is. Simply taking responsibility for your action. Now, I want to, I want to, ooh, I want to show. I had this media asset. I want to show, how can I do that? I wanted to show a, I wanted to show you what accountability looked like. Because I think that if we could see what accountability looks like, then I think that, I think that we could understand, like, oh, it would make a little bit more sense, because one, accountability is just taking account. Let me see if I show this. Is it going to show? Okay, yes. Okay, so these are the different type of accountabilities, you guys. So you have you in the middle, right? And then you have self accountability, which is your internal accountability. All right. So this is taking responsibility for your thoughts and your actions and your growth, right? So you in the middle, and then you have your internal accountability, right? And then you have external accountability. This is having trusted people, coaches, leaderships to help keep you aligned. So we need external accountability. We need people in our life to really keep us aligned. Okay. Then there's spiritual accountability, right? So we need, like, to believe in a higher purpose, right? So this alignment of our actions, faith, our integrity, and divine calling, right? So we will look for this. Like people say, I need a purpose in life, or in some way I feel like, what is my calling, right? So we're looking for this type of accountability. Like, what is my purpose in life, right? If you ever felt that way, put a one in the chat. Good morning, Dale, right? There's situational accountability. This is just like settings. This is setting up systems, right, that automate. So our schedules, our, goal trackers and things like that. A lot of us don't have this, but we need it to make sure that we're keeping up with stuff. And then relational accountability. This just involves our families, right? Our partners and things like this. This is our relationships, right? So I'm accountable to someone, my kids, my spouse, right? My job, my things like these. These are the relationships that we in. And there's me in the middle. And these are all the spaces that I am accounting for and I am accountable to. Okay. All right. Now, with that being said, why is it that it's so difficult for me to be held accountable to myself? Right? Why is it so difficult for me to be held account to God, to all of these things? Well, the ego needs to be right, right? So there's this self-preservation, right? The ego sees being wrong as a threat to my self-worth. Okay. So many people attach their value to being right or successful. So accountability can feel like criticism or failure or rejection. What does this look like? If you're in a relationship, and just say you did something wrong, or you were supposed to do something at work, Just say in your relationship with God, just say with your relationship with your kids, you're supposed to show up, even for yourself, right? You know that you wanted that, but somewhere in you you can't admit that, right? And so you become defensive. It wasn't my fault. You make an excuse. I had no choice, right? You blame shift, right? They should have handled it differently. You should have approached me differently about that, right? So you lack the accountability by blaming how the person either said it, how they said it to you, right? So you're not really fully taking accountability, what? For you not really showing up and doing the thing either you said you were supposed to do, that was either expected of you, or just in some way, um, that you communicated because you didn't want to feel quote unquote wrong. All right. This is what we call self preservation. And we've experienced this, right? But instead of doing that, being wrong doesn't mean that you're not worthy, you guys. It just means that you have an opportunity to grow. And this is why accountability is so important, because it gives us an opportunity to really reshift. Another reason why it's hard for us to take accountability is that if I admit this, then who am I? Right? If I admit that this shortcoming of whatever that is that I was supposed to hold myself account to, and I didn't hold myself account to, right? So if I didn't do one of those things I showed you, right, then who am I? Right? So if someone has built an identity around being strong, competent, and successful, and they didn't meet one of those things, admitting accountability can feel taking accountability for not showing up in one of these areas efficiently could really make them feel like they have lost a little bit of their identity. If they've always seen themselves as the victim to you guys, or always felt like they tell themselves a story or a narrative that, things always happen to them, then they're taking the responsibility. They're not taking responsibility, or they're kind of like changing this into a mindset that's like, yeah, this is happening to me. And so they're really lacking the ability to take responsibility. So if they've always seen themselves as the victim, taking responsibility really challenges the mindset. Okay. So if I've always taken life as the victim, life is happening to me, taking responsibility for myself, it really challenges the mindset, challenges my mindset that I am responsible for my life. All right. How this shows up, avoiding reflection. I don't know. I just don't want to talk about it. So this is another way that I know that I'm dealing with a victim mindset. The person just doesn't want to talk about it, or maybe I don't want to talk about it. Downplaying my mistakes, right? It's just not that serious. And we've seen this. We've seen this in our community. We may have seen this in our coworkers. We may see this in our kids, right? We may see this in our partners, right? We may see this in ourselves, right? So we're avoiding reflection, right? I just don't want to talk about it because the feeling, right, is just so overwhelming. Downplaying my mistakes, it's just not that serious. When we really know it's that serious, but it's like admitting that it's that serious will require more of me. And I don't know if I had a capacity to really deal with that, right? And justifying behaviors. That's just who I am, right? Just again, falling into this mindset of that's who I am, accept it or leave it, right? Listen, we can reframe that mindset though, that growth doesn't change who I am. It really reveals a stronger version of who I am. Okay. And that's all accountability is trying to do. It's really just trying to reveal the stronger version of us. And that is that reason why we may be feeling uncomfortable, because life is trying to reveal the stronger version of us, you guys, as adults, right? We understand that things has happened in our life that we don't like. Um, people have come into our life and hurt us. We have done things in our own life to hurt us, right? And and this is all true, right? But life is still coming to us, right? And trying to get us to be the strongest version of ourselves. So it's keep trying to push us to hold ourselves accountable to what we do, what we say, how we act, and how we show up in these areas, right? It's not trying to shame or blame you. It's just trying to say, hey, let's take account for that. Let's take account for that. And when we play the victim and we avoid reflection and we downplay our mistakes and we justify our behaviors, you guys, you know, it really doesn't allow for us to really, for our strengths to really be revealed. If that makes sense, put one in the chat. All right. Listen, emotional projecting. This is another thing that happens, right? Avoiding shame and guilt, right? This is another reason why people don't hold themselves accountable because of this avoidance of shame and guilt. Listen, if someone grew up in an environment, and this is a big one, right? If someone grew up in an environment where mistakes led to punishment, rejection, or ridicule, accountability may feel emotionally unsafe. Okay. And we have to take responsibility for this too. So instead of learning healthy responsibility, they learn to avoid blame at all costs. Okay. So we as individuals who come from communities where we have been um been participants or been on the end of punishment, rejection, and ridicule, we have to have compassion, especially when we're trying to, you can't really hold a person accountable, but when we're communicating accountability, okay? Because people can hear that as punishment, rejection, and ridicule, right? And when they hear that, then this is where we get the over apologizing. I'm sorry. I just feel like a terrible person. If you met this person, they're like crying about everything. And then you just like, oh, here they go. They're crying. Like they just become very over apologetic, but you don't see any change, right? They shut down. Forget it. I just don't care anymore. They walk out, right? So they have kind of like this kind of shutdown type of thing, or they just lash out, right? You're just trying to make me feel bad, right? So they really buck up against it and either over apologizing, shutting down, or just lashing out altogether, right? Right. Good morning. Good morning, Miss Martha. Right. And so we really want to be mindful that this is emotional projecting, right? They don't really know how to take responsibility. They can identify I did something wrong, but they feel like they're in trouble, right? Versus, so if I take responsibility for that action, is there going to be a punishment, or is there going to be some rejection, or is there going to be some ridicule behind me taking responsibility for that? And if it is, then I would rather hold on to my rightness or avoid it altogether. So I'm going to overly apologize, right? I'm so sorry. I feel like a terrible person. I'm going to forget it. Even I'm going to just kind of shut down, or I'm going to lash out, right? Listen, accountability is not about shaming us, you guys. It's about freeing us. It's about freeing us. At the core, resisting accountability isn't about avoiding a responsibility. It's about protecting our self-worth, you guys. The ego fears being wrong because it threatens the identity. The mind fears change because it feels uncomfortable, you guys, and the heart fears shame because it's been hurt before, okay? But when accountability is reframed as empowerment instead of punishment, everything shifts, right? Because accountability doesn't take away our power, you guys. It gives me power over my life. So let's talk about it. All right. You want to talk about it? All right. Listen, put a 2 in the chat if you want to talk about it. All right. So let's go into our powerful quote, because that was just the introduction. That was just the introduction. Okay. Listen, at the end of the day, we are accountable to ourselves. Our success is a result of what we do. At the end of the day, we are accountable to ourselves. Our success is a result of what we do. Okay? Because that's the truth. At the end of the day, we are accountable to ourselves, you guys. And we're going to talk more about this. Listen, Lisa was always filled. Lisa is a member. Lisa was always full of ideas, right? But never really followed through with them. Who knows about that? If you're a person who always full of ideas but never follow through with them, put a 3 in the chat. Every time she got a goal, she would get distracted, lose motivation, or blame her busy schedule as to why things wasn't getting done. When a mentor asked her, right, who's holding you accountable? She realized she had no real system for tracking her commitments. The moment she put accountability structures in place, like weekly check-ins, a mentor, and a personal tracking system, her progress skyrocketed, you guys. Listen, success isn't about ability, it's about accountability. A lot of us are able, we have the ability to transcend, I don't know, like light years, but we don't have the accountability, right? We have the ability to do everything that we want to do. We just don't have the accountability, right? We don't have the systems, the mentors, and the tracking processes to really do the things that we say we're going to do, right? And that is a problem. That is a problem. That is a quick solve. We can solve that, right? Okay, because many people fail to be accountable. Many people fail to really be accountable because they have never been taught how to really take ownership of their actions. They think of accountability as a punishment or pressure rather than a tool of growth, you guys. This means that if you ever struggle with accountability, it's not because you're lazy or unmotivated. It's because you haven't built the right accountability structures into your life. Okay. Imagine this. Imagine how much easier it would be if you stayed on track, pushed past procrastination, and actually listen, and actually saw results if you had a system that kept you aligned to your goals. You know what that made me think of? Your job. You know why you get up every morning and go to work if you got a job? Because they told you to. Because they're saying, hey, you got to check in at 8 o'clock and you got to check out at this other time. You got to be here at 12 o'clock and that's an accountability system. And when you get there, guess what? It's the way that they're keeping tabs on when you check in, when you check out. That's their accountability system, right? And then they pay you. Okay, then they pay you a check, right? So what if accountability wasn't something to fear, but it was something that could set you free, right? What if it was the missing piece that was unlocking your potential? Listen, a member in our community said, I used to struggle with follow through, but I joined an accountability group knowing that someone would be checking in on me, made me push past my excuses and actually get things done. You guys, listen, studies show that having an accountability partner increases the likelihood of goal attainment by 95%, by 95%. Listen, when you commit out loud and set up structure follow-ups, you're more likely to take action. I'm gonna go back to your job. Your job is an accountability tool. Okay. It's accountability tool for so many reasons. One, it ensures that you're gonna get what? Your check. You check in or however many hours, and they have a system in place. They have a system in place that is telling you you're going to work for this many hours and then we're going to pay you this much. But they're holding you account to that, right? And they're giving you a job description. I want to ask you this, and they paid millions of dollars for that. I want to ask you this. When you come up with your own idea, like somebody came up with an idea, the owner of that job came up with that idea, and they said, we need to make these many widgets. I need an accountability tool to make sure that these many widgets are made. Okay. So how can I make sure that these many widgets are made? So we need 10 people doing this. How can we make sure of that? So they put accountability tool in place. When you come up with your idea, be it for your relationship, be it for your dream, be it for your body, be it for your health, be it for your spiritual relationship, are you doing the same thing on a smaller level? Okay. Are you saying, hey, what is my accountability system that I'm putting in place to ensure that I'm strengthening my relationship with God, right? I am making sure that I'm working out, that I'm making sure that I'm, getting this business off the ground, that I'm making sure that I'm engaging with my kids, right? What is the structures that you have in place that I'm spending time with my mate, that I'm spending time with my family? Where is the tool that I have that is holding me account to that system, to that goal? right? And we need that, you guys. And something in our minds tell us that we don't. Tell us that we don't, you guys, and we really do. Because our minds can be like weeds, right? If you want a flourishing garden, you guys, a flourishing yard that is beautiful. You know, my granddaddy used to have, when we had resources, he would have like the most beautiful yards and, plant the flowers and things like that. But the weeds will grow. They're going to grow naturally. Listen, our minds are going to naturally be distracted. They're naturally going to be distracted. So we need anchors to pull us back. I hire me a trainer, right? I hire me a coach. I hire me a business coach. I hire me a finance coach. I have a accountability partner, right? These are things that pull me back into alignment because I know that if those things aren't in place, I'm gonna be everywhere. My highly educated person is still gonna wanna binge on scandal, eat what I want to eat because that's the way the mind works, right? So we need these accountability. Me and my friends, we schedule a time for us to go on trips. Like, you know what I mean? Because if we don't hold ourselves accountable to that space, a trip will never happen. So I'm asking you guys, where is the accountability at? Right? And that is why accountability is so important, you guys. Listen, if that made sense, put a 2 in the chat, put a 3 in the chat. I'm not trying to talk to y'all like like I'm your mama. I just want y'all to know that a lot of us don't have accountability because one, we have seen accountability as this sense of punishment. When our parents held us accountable to making up our beds, they held us accountable with what? A belt in their hand. When they held us accountable to washing them dishes, they held what? Our phone up against us, right? They took our phones or they took the thing that we love, right? So they used this type of this punishment rearing to hold us accountable to do this thing, right? And so when we were younger, it's like I can't wait till I become an adult so I can do what I want to do. And then it's like I'm gonna throw accountability out the door. Like I don't want nobody to tell me what to do. And so when we became adults, it's like you can't tell me what to do, as if the brain still doesn't need direction, and it does. It absolutely needs direction, right? And you need to be directing it and guiding it in how you want it to go. And it's very hard when we come from communities or just in general. But it's very hard, one, to give it direction, right? Because it's getting so much information. It's getting so much information all the time. Remember, the brain has 70,000 thoughts a day, right? That it's repeating over and over and over again, right? And so you have to tell the brain what to focus on out of those 70,000 thoughts, right? Right? So knowing that we have this phenomenal mind that has these 70,000 thoughts, and now I gotta tell this brain what to think. So there is this sense of, okay, I need direction. I need accountability, especially if I'm trying to live my highest best life. I'm gonna tell you this: if you look at a LeBron James, if you look at a Stephen Curry, if you look at a Beyonce, if you look at any proficient person, they have accountability around them, right? Right. They have accountability around them to make sure that they're doing the thing that they're supposed to do. Right. So that is the feminine quality too, right? It's like for them to be, something has to be doing. So a part of even sitting or having accountability partners or having this relationship is with accountability is a part of it is like sitting in our the divine feminine, right? I can be present. I don't have to do everything, right? Because I know things are getting done. How do I know things are getting done? Because I have an accountability partner. I put systems in place and I know that these systems are working for me. If that makes sense, put a 5 in the chat for me. If that makes sense, put a 5 in the chat for me. Listen, the S in stopping now is for the stories, right? The beliefs that we tell ourselves that keep us from taking responsibility. Listen, the common stories that really block us is I can do it alone. I can do it alone, you guys. This mindset is fear of dependency, right? But accountability isn't weakness, you guys. It's a growth strategy. Listen, the story, if I need accountability, it means I'm weak or incapable. It's like just not true. The reality is that successful people don't succeed alone. Accountability isn't dependency, you guys. It's a tool for growth, right? So we have to reframe that to accountability is not about weakness, you guys. It's about strategy, right? It's about strategy with my partner. It's about strategy with my kids. It's about strategy at work, right? It's about strategy with my health. It's about me coming into partnership and strategy with my body, with my mind, with my spirituality, with God, with my relationship, right? And all of these things are holding me accountable and I'm holding it accountable. Okay. All right. Number two, I'll start when I'm ready, right? Again, this is a mindset of perfectionism or fear of failure, but waiting for the perfect time, again, you guys, just keeps you stuck. The story, I need to have everything figured out before I take responsibility for my goals, that's just not true, right? Because you're never going to have everything figured out. The reality is you'll never feel fully ready to do anything, right? So waiting for the perfect time keeps you really stuck in this cycle of procrastination, right? So we need to reframe that or reshape that to action creates clarity. The best time to show up for myself is when? Today. Okay? Today, right? I'm not, I'm, I'm just not that type of person. Again, this is a fixed identity, right? This is a fixed identity belief, but identity isn't fixed, you guys. Identity isn't fixed. Growth is choice. Okay. So the story behind this is I've always been bad at consistency. I've always been bad at consistency. I'm just not that type of person. I'm just not the person that can take direction from people. I'm just not the type of person that you can just tell what to do. I'm just always been independent, right? This again is this fixed identity. You are claiming something that's just not true. We are flexible. You can change. The mind can grow, right? Because the reality is your identity isn't fixed. It's not fixed like that. Growth and accountability are skills that can develop with practice, you guys. They can develop with practice. So we reframe that. I can learn accountability just like I've learned other skills in my life. Okay. Okay. Good morning, Miss Melissa. I can learn accountability just like I've learned other skills in my life. But we will stick with this fixed identity, and we are not fixed beings. We're divine beings, right? Which means that we can what? Transcend. We can transcend our limitations, you guys. All right. I don't need anyone checking up on me, right? That's our ego, right? That's just our ego in resistance to feedback. And a lot of us have this again because of that punishment. And a lot of us just don't want to be checked up on. All right. So I don't need no one checking up on me. Again, this is that ego and resistance to feedback. But self accountability alone often fails. Okay. The story, I don't like people telling me what to do. I can hold myself accountable. It's just not true, and it doesn't lean to support healthy interdependent relationships. Okay. The reality is that if self accountability was enough, you'd already be where you would want to be. All right. The feedback and the check-ins keep us on track, you guys. They keep us on track. So we need to reframe that to support isn't about control, you guys. Accountability accelerates our success. All right. It isn't too late for me to it's too late for me to change. This is one of those defeated and limiting beliefs. I know we in our 40s. I know we in our 50s. I know that we older. I know that we didn't felt like we've wasted a lot of time. We've done a lot of things, we may feel that way, but it's just not true. We still have a lot of life left, right? Um, so it's too late for me to change. It's just a defeated and limiting belief. But the only things that make The only things that make it too late is our refusal to start. That's the only thing that makes it too late. The story that I've been this way too long and change is impossible, or I've waited too long, at this age, it doesn't mean that's just not true, you guys. Change happens the moment you decide and stop believing the lie that you're too old to change, you guys. Okay. It's never too late to take accountability for your growth. Never, ever. You know, it is so amazing the people that I get to work with, that get to experience love, to get to experience financial freedom, that get to experience like launching their business, right? It's women going back to getting their nursing degrees and going back to college, men starting their careers, like the things that they really want to do in their 50s and their 60s, you guys. So it's never too late. Getting married, finding love. So it's never too late, you guys. It's never too late. And then this last one, if I ignore it, it'll go away. This is a big one. And this is just denial. This is just avoidance and denial, you guys. The story, if I don't think about my mistakes or just or lack of progress, it won't bother me and it won't bother the people. And this is just not true. We live in a community, right? We are all accountable for our space. And guess what? Your growth is a trickle down effect, is a domino effect. You are responsible for something in this life. When you live in your fullness in your life, then that's a trickle down, either for your kids, your grandkids, your siblings. You are responsible for something greater than you, right? And when you hold yourself accountable to that, then it's a trickle down that helps someone else. All right. So avoidance keep you stuck. Taking ownership is how you really regain your power, you guys. So I want you to reframe that. Acknowledging my gaps doesn't make me weak. It does. It really does empower me, you guys. But I really do want to take some time and really talk about what stops us from really becoming accountable as adults. What stops us from really becoming accountable as adults? Listen, well, let me say this. What stops us from becoming accountable as adults? It's like really could be some deep seated psychological, emotional, and societal factors, right? It really could be making it difficult, right? It's not that we're lazy or avoidance, right? Accountability challenges often is rooted in some unaddressed internal barriers, and I would be remiss if I didn't talk about that, right? So unresolved childhood conditioning, right? When we were taught how we were taught about accountability. Listen, if you grew up in a harsh, critical, overly strict household, accountability may feel like punishment. I talked about that earlier, rather than a tool for growth. If you were never held accountable as a kid, right? As kids, you may have developed avoidance patterns, right? Or lack of follow through. If accountability was always tied to shame or guilt, like I was talked about earlier, then you may reject it as an adult, right? So you have to reframe accountability as empowerment, not punishment, and learn that accountability is ownership and really not shame, right? Here's another one: fear of failure or judgment, right? So many people avoid accountability because they fear being exposed that's not good enough or wrong, right? If you admit responsibility, you may believe that it means that you're a failure or that you're weak, right? And so you're trying to hold on to as much strength as you have, right? And so you're trying to avoid taking responsibility or accountability. A lot of people are blaming their circumstances, people, and timing instead of really taking responsibility or accountability for the role and the outcome. Okay, here's the fix to that: really just shifting from a failure mindset to really a learning mindset. And I know that this could be challenging, right? But the more that I accept that I can shift my mindset, again, sitting at that table, I don't have to sit at this table of failure. I can look at this as a learned lesson, feel that. And I think that a big part of us not wanting to take accountability, you guys, is because I got to feel that. You know what I mean? I got to feel what that feels like to feel wrong. in my mind, that's what it feels like, that I was wrong, right? Accountability, but accountability isn't about blame, you guys. It's about progress. It's like when I can take that accountability, it's as if, okay, I've accelerated. All right. Instant gratification trap, right? We live in a culture with instant results, right? And accountability requires patience and discipline, right? So many people choose like really the short term comfort, right? So that naturally makes me want to avoid accountability over long term growth, which is owning my actions, right? Technology, social media, and fast solutions have made delayed gratification harder. Listen, it's just easy for me to get the fix, the quick fix, right? And accountability is a slower results, right? It takes me sitting down. It takes me metabolizing these emotions. It takes me really sitting with this. It takes some healing, right? Taking accountability for something I said or something I did, that may have affected someone, right? And now I have to deal with the pain that may have caused. And so that healing process, maybe now I have to sit with that pain, right? And it may be some healing for that. And if I don't want to deal with all of that, the quick fix would be just to hide that, to not take accountability, to blame the situation of circumstances, my parents, right, for not teaching me, about money, for not teaching me, for not loving me, right? For not doing some things in their life. And that's why I am the way I am, right? But I'm not taking responsibility for that as an adult person, right? As a 46-year-old adult, I'm still blaming my parents for the wounds I carry today because they didn't sit down and talk to me about money, because they didn't tell me that they love me, because they didn't sit down and tell me about men, because they didn't teach me about so many things. And I'm saying it's people who saying this at 30, it's people who saying this at 35, it's people who saying this at 60, it's people who saying this at 70, at 50, at 60 years old, who still pointing a finger at their parents because they want this kind of gratification trap, or just this avoidance of discomfort, which is what I'm going to talk about. Growth requires facing hard truths, right? Many people avoid discomfort at any cost, right? So they may distract themselves with business, procrastination, and denial instead of just taking responsibility. Many people believe that avoiding accountability means avoiding pain, but in reality, it's only just delaying the inevitable. Okay, many people believe avoiding accountability means just avoiding pain. All right, and this is just not true, right? Here's the thing: lean into discomfort as a part of your growth instead of fearing it, and then ask, what is this trying to teach me, right? Because the truth is that this is why accountability is so important, because when I go collect all my stuff, all the things I need to learn. Now I can create a plan for my life, right? I don't no longer have to blame my mama, my daddy. I don't have to be mad at anyone else for where they have been able to make get into their life, or where they're at in their life, or where they're at in their in their careers or in their finances, right? I don't have to have this jealousy against them. I don't have to have bitterness against them, right? All of that stuff can wash away. I can truly be on my own path, live at my own pace, right? Layout. I'm going to say that a lot. Why? Because now I have a plan. Like, I'm taking responsibility. I'm taking account for what I have, what I don't have. Listen, if there's a counting system in place at your bank, right? It's a check and balance. You put $200 in, you can't take $300 out. You're gonna be in the negative, right? There's a check and balance in life, you guys, right? So here's the thing: a lot of us, we wasn't given some things. All right. Maybe mama didn't sit down. Maybe mama didn't sit down and talk to you about love. This is true. Maybe you were the daughter or the son that, your mom cussed you out, called you all type of names, didn't really do what she was supposed to do. Maybe she was a drug head. Maybe your mom was the mom that gave you everything, right? And didn't hold you accountable to nothing, right? Uh, bought you everything you wanted, spoiled you, right? Wherever you fall at in that range, okay? Everything has a consequence, though, all right? So as an adult, And I'm going to say 30 as a 30 because at 25, our frontal lobe is closing. That's why you can stay on your parents' insurance to 25 or sometimes to 27. So we're going to give you to 30. All right. At 30 years old, you're an adult. At some point, we truly break. Okay, you broke the umbilical cord with your mama when you came out of her womb. But okay, now for real, we got to break the umbilical cord at some point. And I'm saying mama and daddy. Okay, daddy wasn't there. I get that. Daddy wasn't there. Mama wasn't there. Daddy was there. Daddy spoiled you. Daddy gave you everything you wanted. Okay, I'm trying to go over the spectrum of everything possible that you could have went through. Maybe you were molested. Maybe you were treated good. Listen, at some point you became an adult and you had to take an inventory of your needs based off of what you were given and what you was not. Okay, at 30, at 40, at 50, what was I given and what was I not given? Let me take account for this. Was I given love? Was I given enough love? Do I understand what love is? If this makes sense, put a 2 in the chat. Put a 4 in the chat. I'm sorry. Put a 4 in the chat. Right? Was I given love? Was I given enough love? You know, financially, do I have financial literacy? Was I given that? What, right? And then we take account for it. Okay, now it's my responsibility to go out and get that. But a lot of us get bitter because we wasn't given it. Because we wasn't given it. And we feel like it was somebody else's responsibility to give me that. And today I'm going through what I'm going through because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. Right? And it's kind of like this I don't want to say like a how dare you, but as an adult, right now you got kids. You don't even have the skill now to pass down to your kids. So now if you was to have kids, so how you going to teach it to your kids? If you don't take the time now to learn it, if you don't take this time to learn it, then how can you teach it to your kids? You mad at your parent for not teaching it to you. But how are you going to teach it to your kids if you don't take this time to hold yourself into account that I don't know this is a deficit, it's something that I need, and I need to really, really do something about this so that I can teach it to my kids. And guess what? Your child's still going to be in a deficit when they become 30 because deficits happen. It's a check and balance in life because what you need right now is going to be based on your environment, your emotional environment, your physical environment, your sexual environment, your relational environment, your spiritual environment. Our appetites are going to all be different, right? And so we're constantly taking into account our needs. We're doing a needs assessment all the time on what is it that I need. And that is the power of taking accountability, you guys, right? But a lot of times we're not doing that work. We're not doing that work and we're so far behind the mark. We're so far behind the mark because we don't even know. We're so far behind the mark and we're blaming other people for our lack. Okay. Listen, a big part of this is we let, not only are we avoiding, discomfort, right? We're avoiding discomfort, right? Because growth requires facing hard truths, right? So there's this emotional resistance. There's this emotional resistance to change, and growth requires hard truths, right? And many people avoid discomfort at all costs. Like I said, they may distract themselves with busyness, procrastination, and denial, right? But a lot of us lack the external accountability, right? So many adults don't have people in their lives to really hold them accountable. Many of us we have a lot of yes men in our life, meaning people who just will allow us to run amok, will allow us to just act up. You know what I mean? Because we're in codependent relationships. And this is what we call that's why I just say like toxic relationships. And I really don't believe, say it's like toxic. No, it's just, they just not holding you accountable. They're not holding you accountable to your stuff and you're not holding them accountable to their stuff because some of their stuff is allowing you to do your stuff and your stuff is allowing them to do their stuff. All right. So many adults don't have people in their lives to really hold them accountable. Listen, without mentors and coaches and a supportive system, it's easy to just let things slide, right? It's easy to just just to let things slide. So some people actively avoid accountability in relationships, right? In our health, because they don't want to really be challenged, right? So a lot of us, we can feel, even in our relationships, we can feel like, oh, if I get with him, I'm gonna have to kind of probably do what I say I'm gonna do. If I go to that job, I might get fired because I might have to go on, I'm gonna have to be there on time. So even the way we're choosing things is based off of what we know we can be held accountable to. And that's not to judge us. I'm just saying let's become self-aware of that. Right. And then that feeling in our stomach, we can resolve it because we're right where we want to be. And then let's become okay with that. And if we're not okay with it, right? If we're not okay with it, then let's do something about it. Okay. Right? When we do our reconciling, right? Maybe I'm just right where I want to be. Maybe I want to be here, but maybe I haven't reconciled the stories in my head of where I should be because I haven't reconciled the stories in my head of what society said I should be doing and all of that. And I'm feeling this dis-ease. But the truth of the matter is, I'm right where I want to be because I'm choosing mates, I'm choosing partners, I'm choosing environments that's keeping me right where I'm at. Because when it's time for me to choose a partner that's going to hold me accountable to a certain standard, to choose a job, to choose environments, or to hire a coach or somebody that's going to hold me accountable, yeah, I ain't really trying to do that because I'm in this fixed mindset that I'm me and I'm going to do it my way. If that makes sense, put a 5 in the chat, right? I know that this may feel difficult, but it is. I'm really here today to disrupt you, to disrupt a lot of this tendency for us to hide behind other people's inadequacies and really hide behind other people's inadequacies and not point the finger at our own, because accountability is truly holding ourselves into account, right? And we can point the finger at our narcissistic boyfriends, and we can point the finger at our substance abuse moms or our absent moms, right? And all of that does is allow us to play small in our own life. As long as I can point the finger at them and play victim to these people that have done something to me, that have put me in this position. And I'm like, that is a lie. Because at some point you have a decision, you have a choice that you could take into account. What do you need? What do you need? Because you are a divine being and you can transcend. I'm telling you, you can transcend any limitation, right? And you can go get the support that you need. You can go get it, right? You can hire a coach, you can get a therapist, right? You can, and that's going to be work. But anybody, even the people who have had the best homes. Listen, I have worked with people who come from millionaires, who got 7 businesses, who CEOs, the things that you're dreaming that would change your mind, who still have to grow emotionally, who still is seeking stronger relationship with God, who still has to mend stuff with their families, right? So this is a lifelong, this thing in life is forever happening. It's not this one and done, dinner. You know what I mean? It's not like this last supper that we're having and that's going to fill us up for the rest of our life. When you get great, then you going to, want to be great again and great again. It's an appetite, you guys, right? But a lot of us are hiding behind, like I said, the flaws of our ancestors, our parents, our mates, our previous mates, and things like that. And we're using those as excuses to hide. And I'm saying hide softly because I'm not judging you for it. I just want you to become aware of it. Like, oh, I am using that relationship as a, kind of like as an umbrella for me not to really do what I want to do. I'm blaming them, for me not standing. I'm blaming my mama's absent in my life. I'm blaming her substance abuse. I'm blaming this. I'm blaming that. I'm looking externally at all these events that has happened to me versus taking accountability and taking an account of what I need, right, for my life, and then doing the work that I need to do as an adult. And I'm speaking as an adult, as an adult. And I want you guys to hear me say that, as an adult, right? I do not condone any abuse of kids, any type of uh anything as a kid. You know what I mean? It shouldn't have happened to you. Absolutely not. It shouldn't have happened to you. Your mama should have been present. She should have did what she was supposed to do. You know, she should have stood up for you. She should have advocated for you. Your daddy should have been there. All of the shouldas that you dreamed of, that you should have experienced, I'm there with you. Yes, absolutely, it should have happened. The truth is that it didn't, though, right? And that is where we lie today. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. So now, what are we going to do? We lay here today. We sit here today with the truth before us. And how can we now take into account of what needs to happen? And a big part of us, again, not taking into account is not having the external accountability, right? The right people around us externally, right? And then this identity, right? This identity, self-worth is identity and self-worth issues, right? So some of us, if someone believes I'm just not disciplined, I'm just not a disciplined person because of how I've been brought up, right? They won't hold themselves accountable. If they spent years feeling incapable or stuck, right, they may not change, right? And many people tie their self-worth to their past failures. So I get it, right? So making accountability feel like an attack, right, versus an opportunity. But listen, change your identity around your accountability, right? Start saying, I am a person who takes responsibility for my life. And this is why I'm big on language. You have to know that your brain, your body was there to serve you, And if you learn how to use your language in a way to empower you, then you will start to see a difference, right? And so saying something like, I am someone who takes responsibility for my life, you will start to see areas where your life will start to respond to you differently. Listen, if that made sense, put a 6 in the chat for me. Put a 6 in the chat for me. I have to say, I'm very passionate about life, right? When I say life, I'm talking about your love of self, interactions with others, our focus and our energy, because I feel like you only get one. You only get one life. And we will give that one life, we will give it to people to play with. They already get their own. Your mama got hers to do what she wants to do with it. Your daddy got his to do what he wants to do with it. Your boyfriend, your husband, he got his to do what he wants to do with it. And you got yours. But we will give up ours, right? Your kids, they got theirs to do what they want to do with it. Now, at a certain point, we are responsible for our kids, okay? We are responsible for our kids. Miss Jackie said, good morning, Miss Sheila. I've been listening, but not able to participate in the chat because I'm moving around all day. My phone is charging, but I have my earbuds on. Good morning, Miss Jackie. But it's all good this morning. Thank you, Miss Jackie. All right. So listen, we are responsible for our kids, right? We are responsible for our kids. But you only get one life. One, right? And God made you 100% in that one life. And life then came, if you ever took that class and teacher say, you showed up today, you got 100% on your, you A student, right? And then each day you come, right, you start to kind of lose, right? Right? Now you become a C student but it's your responsibility to get as close to an A to if you gonna leave this life, leave an A student like you came, right? And that's gonna require effort. That's gonna require effort on your part. But a lot of us is giving our life, the one that we get, we're giving it up as if it's not the most valuable asset that you have, because it's the only one you gonna experience. It's the only one you gonna experience. And when I say it's the only one you gonna experience, that means your eyes, your ears, your senses, your hands, your body, your sexual organs, your tummy, right? Your taste buds. It's the only one you're going to experience. Okay, so if you're on this chat, if you're on this line, you're listening to me, right? It's not by happenstance, right? It's because you want to experience it, and you want to experience it differently. But you only get one, so why not experience it? Listen, you only gonna experience your love. You're not gonna experience the love of your kids. That love come inside of you. That's your heart pumping. That's your endorphins moving. You only gonna experience your anger. That's your anger. That's your feeling inside of you. You know, these are your feelings. These are your emotions. You know what I mean? So why not be back in relationship with yourself enough, right? And then it's happening over and over again. It ain't going nowhere. It's gonna happen for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life, you guys. For the rest of your life. So let's get back in relationship with ourselves. And then when we did, be it good, bad, or indifferent, we can accept that because we in relationship with ourselves, and we can be forgiving of ourselves the way we forgiving of everybody else. Right? We forgiving of everybody else. Right? Everybody else in their shenanigans. But we need to get in a relationship with ourselves so we can forgive ourselves. That makes sense. Put a 7 in the chat for me. Okay. So let's go to our biblical wisdom, you guys. Listen. Galatians 6, 4, and 5. Okay, Galatians 6, 4, and 5. Each one should test their own action. Listen, each one should test their own action. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else. For each one should carry their own load. What this means, let me read it one more time. Galatians 4 and 5. Okay, each one should test their own action. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else. For each one should carry their own load. What does this mean? Personal responsibility is a biblical principle, you guys. While we support each other, we are ultimately responsible for our own actions, growth, and choices. Listen, accountability isn't about blaming others. It's about owning your role in your success, in your life, and in your experiences, you guys. All right. Listen, we must evaluate our own actions, our own choices, and growth instead of looking at what others are doing. At the end of the day, we must carry our own load, our own success, healing, and progress, our own success, we must carry our own load, our own success, healing, and progress depends on us. This verse speaks deeply to personal responsibility, you guys. It reminds us that while we may receive help and guidance from others, our growth, our healing, and our success ultimately depends on who? On us. Listen, each one shall test their own action, right? Then they should take pride in themselves alone, right? We are so trying to compare, like I said, point the finger at each other. You know, you did this, I wouldn't be here. Listen, at some point, I remember I used to date this guy, and he used to always say, when you go to the pearly gates, God's not gonna ask you, they're gonna ask you, what did you do? And if you say, well, I did that because mama said, no, what did you do? What did you do? You are being taken into account for your actions. And a lot of us, we are saying we did stuff because of what somebody else did, because of what somebody else said. Well, if they wouldn't have did that, if they wouldn't have done this, if this wouldn't have happened, and we just need to take account for our own actions, you guys. Listen, God is not this. Let me see. This verse directly speaks to personal responsibility. It reminds us that while we may receive help and guidance from others, growth, healing, and success ultimately depends on us. Listen, God is not this distant figure waiting to punish us or rescue us, you guys. He is within us, empowering us to take responsibility. Listen, too often people wait for external validation, wait for permission, or motivation to change. But this verse reinforces that we carry our own weight, you guys. God isn't standing over us, waiting for us to fail or succeed. He is the strength within us, guiding us towards growth and ownership. This verse is reminding us that accountability isn't about blame, you guys. It's about empowerment. Each one should test their own action. Accountability starts with self-awareness and taking an honest look at your actions. Stop looking at what others are doing and focus on you. Then you can take pride in, then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else. True accountability isn't about measuring yourself against others. It's about being the best version of you, you guys. And for each one should carry its own load. This really means that no one else can live your life, you guys. Make your choice and do the work for you because you are responsible for your growth, you guys. So I want to ask you, I want you to ask, where am I avoiding personal responsibility by comparing myself to others? What action can I take today to fully take ownership of my life? And then what can I take? What can I see accountability as empowerment instead of pressure? Okay. All right. Now, this next verse, Proverbs 27 and 17. Listen, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. I gotta kind of get a story. One day I'm driving, right? And I see, and God showed me this like iron sharpens iron. And he asked me like, so what is iron sharpens iron? You know? And I distinctly see two blades. And tell me when you thought of iron, sharpening iron, if you saw this too. And if you saw it, I need you to help me. And I need you to put an 8 in the chat if this is what you saw. Iron sharpening iron. So I say it back to God. Two sharp blades, sharpening each other. If you saw that in your mind, put an 8 in the chat for me. So I saw two sharp knives going like this, right? If you saw that, put an 8 in the chat for me. Listen, real quick, God's like, and the one blade in my mind popped. It popped. And it became an iron file. It became an iron file. And God said, iron sharpens iron. You need the same material, but it can't be the same. You can't sharpen, two sharp things can't sharpen each other, but they have to be the same, like the same substance, right? So it was the iron. So this knife was iron and it was being sharpened though by an iron file, right? This roughness of this file. And at that time in my life, I was going through a really rough situation. It was a really rough situation. And he dropped that in my spirit for me because, I'm like looking to be around like, oh, I need to be around sharper people and I need to be around like-minded people. And I need to be, like that was my thinking. But it was like these situations and circumstances that I had to put myself in, that the substance of those situations and circumstances is what was sharpening me. And that's what I took from that. So this proverb, I want to talk to you about this promise first. Proverbs 27 and 17, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. You guys, listen, true growth happens in community and accountability. We get stronger when we allow others to challenge, refine, and challenge us, you guys, and encourage us. Listen, and this can be anybody, and not just the people we choose to. One of the most sharpening, if we talk about forgiveness and love, and it's just me, I ain't talking about for nobody else, was my ability to forgive. That was one of my most sharpening places, right? And this was like with my mom or with my dad, right? This kind of sense of like forgiving them, that sharpened my compassion for my mom as a woman, my dad as a father, right? like these situations that happen. Okay, so we need people in our life to help sharpen us. Okay, so as iron sharpens iron, and I wanted to show you guys like this iron is not these two sharp people like that's at the top of their game sharpening each other. It's these rough situations that we encounter. Is sometimes these challenges that we are faced with in people, in our relationships, in our in our mentors, right? That's holding us accountable, that's holding us to a standard, that's holding us to a place that they see in us, right? those rough those rough situations, right? That's sharpening us. And a lot of times we're thinking it's their sharpness, it's their minds, it's the, they're smart and then I'm smart and we're keeping each other sharp. No, it's the rough. They're rough. They're bumping up against me. My grandfather used to be a Ro, what did he used to do? My brother, if he's still on, he used to be a car person, and he would go in with like a 20 grade sandpaper. Where first he used to like cut the rust out the car, and then he would put like the metal in the car, and he would put like rivets nails around it, and he would like have to like literally take this metal gun and like do the rivets, like, and it'd be sparks flying everywhere. And then he would have to take like 20 grade sandpaper, then 40 grade sandpaper. Now, if you know about grades of sandpaper, he had to go against that bundo with really rough sandpaper at first, right? Because if he went against it with softer sandpaper, that sandpaper would have got ate up. Okay. So we need sometimes the roughness of people to sharpen us. So sometimes we need to be met, and we know this. Sometimes we need to be met with some soulful love, right? Some soulful love. The intention is to love on you, but some firmness, right? Some type of something to sharpen us, right? And sometimes this is within the people within us, the communities within us, something like Project Life, something I love you, but hey, you gotta hear this truth, right? And some of the things that I say, it's like that. Like what I said earlier. Like, hey, you an adult now. I know mama did that. I know you went through that, right? So this is what we call, I don't want to say tough love because I think that could be a little cliche, but yeah. So iron sharpens iron. Okay. That is today's word. Like iron sharpens iron, as one person, just like one person sharpens another. So true growth happens in community and accountability. We get stronger when we allow others to sharpen us, to refine us, and to encourage us. For someone who will hold you accountable, right? Find someone who will hold you accountable and really push you to become your best. Listen, I just made a call this weekend, was a kind of challenging for me. And I just made a call because I had this vision of like, I need wisdom, right? And I need to be pushed to my limit. And I know that even in my intelligence, like I can be pushed further, and I need somebody that can cultivate that and can see my mind and is like, I want to work with her mind and I can do this thing, and I want to volunteer that, to an individual that can see my gift and can help me shape that, right? Good morning, Mama Sharon. And so I made some calls this weekend to hire a different coach to help to cultivate that, right? So find somebody to hold you accountable and really push you to be your best self, right? So this verse really reminds us that growth happens in relationships and accountability. Just as iron sharpens iron, listen, we need mentors, we need peers, we need supportive systems to really challenge us, hold us accountable, and really push us towards our excellence, you guys. God works through people, that's something I always say. And God works through people in our lives and holds us accountable. The divine within us is strengthening. It's strengthened when we allow others to challenge us, call us to a higher place, and really sharpen our character, you guys. So I want to ask you, who in your life holds you accountable? Well, I want you to ask yourself, who in my life holds me accountable? Am I surrounding myself with people who can push me forward, or those who allow me to make excuses? All right. And this is an honest question. No, again, no judgment, right? Listen, God isn't watching from above to see if you fail. He is really within us, giving us, right, the strength, the wisdom to support, in the support, right? We just have to say yes to that ownership, you guys. Listen, Galatians 6 and 4 and 5 really reminds us that we must take responsibility for our lives. And then Proverbs 27 and 17 really reminds us that we don't have to grow in isolation, that we need others to sharpen us. Okay. All right. And then let's go to our action steps for today. Listen, I want you to identify where you lack accountability. That's the step one. Create an accountability system. That's step two. And then set an immediate commitment, right? So step one, really identify where you lack accountability. What's one area in your life where you struggle to follow through? Is it at work? Is it with your health, the relationships, spiritual growth, right? Just identify that. Create accountability system, like choose one method of accountability, an accountability partner, a mentor, a tracking system, something like Project Life, right? That weekly coaching where you're coming in, you're talking about it, right? Set an immediate commitment, right? So drop the challenge is to drop one thing in a comment that you're committed to doing, and then I'll check up with you, or DM me that, right? All right. And then the challenge is for this particular transformational tool is to really, the next time you catch yourself avoiding accountability, stop and ask yourself, what system can I put in place to really help me follow through? All right. Our affirmation for today: I am accountable for my growth. I embrace responsibility. I take ownership of my action. Listen, and I set myself up for success. All right. I'm accountable for my growth. I embrace responsibility. I take ownership of my action, and I set myself up for success. All right. And then my daily intention today, I choose to build accountability into my life. I welcome support, structure, and responsibility as tools for my success. Okay. And then for the next 2 hours, notice when you try to avoid accountability. Listen, if it's in a situation, right, like you got caught out on something, right, just notice it. I ain't telling you to just take it, and just become accountable, but just notice that feeling like they got me, right? Notice how that feels in your body when you're trying to either avoid accountability. It's kind of like, I got you. Like, what is that thing that happens to you? I want you to notice it, right? Um, and shift it by taking action. And the action I want you to take again, if you want to say you got me because I'm doing accountability, that's cool. But the first step is really self-awareness. Because if we don't catch it as self-awareness, then it's really not going to help. So I want you to really start to see how important accountability is. So if you get, if you catch yourself like, I'm gonna hold myself accountable. I said I was gonna do this thing, and then you find that you don't do it. Okay, yeah, there it is. If you're in a conversation and you said you was gonna do something, find yourself in a I don't want to say an argument, but somebody maybe saying something, and the conversation just kind of go left, right? And then you like, yep, they got me. Are you trying to be right? So think about some of those things that I said earlier and see if you find yourself in that. Okay. All right. Listen, drop a fire in the chat. You already know what to do. Drop a fire in the chat if this session really shift your perspective on accountability. Let's celebrate our growth, you guys. And remember, like, if you can shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life. I'm gonna continue to ask you guys to subscribe to that YouTube channel. Send it to your friends and family members. Invite a friend to that Facebook group, Elevating Life with Dr. Sheila Little. Well, Elevating Life with Sheila Little. We're trying to get to 1,000 members, you guys. You already know knowledge alone won't change your life. Only action will. Imagine having that personalized guidance and real accountability in a supportive community, right? Where you can apply what you've learned inside Project Life. That's just what you get. We turn theory into practice. Your healing journey doesn't have to be solo, you guys. So you can join for just $47 a month at SheilaLittle.com/project life. I thank you guys. I love you. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow as we start to talk about triggers for Transformational Tuesday. Listen, triggered or tested. Okay, that is our conversation for tomorrow. Is it triggered or tested? How accountability really reveals your growth. I love you. I love you. And I will see you tomorrow for that life lesson. Till later. Bye-bye.